Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to introduce for you a very easy to use Python library called Newspaper3k. What it does is scrapes articles and text from all sorts of sources using the request and beautiful soup libraries. And in only a few lines of code you can search for such things as the published date, the authors, you can get the summary and the full text. It can also help you find the main keywords using natural language processing. It can also extract for you image and video links, metadata, HTML, and it can also get more for you as well, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. As well, Newspaper3k can also extract data from you in over 30 languages. In general, it's a great tool to use if you have lots and lots of articles to scrape. So let's say for a research project or for a business doing research on what people may be saying about their product. In general, it eliminates the need to have to dig through HTML every time you have to scrape text from a new web page and then have to write new code for it. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you today is a quick program that uses Newspaper3k to scrape a series of articles from a website. In this case, it's going to be ABC News Technology. And then we are going to do machine learning and have it do analysis on the text of each article through the text blob module to deliver us scores telling us how positive or negative the article is by the polarity score and whether or not the article is more or less subjective or objective. Now, before we begin, I'm just going to quickly go over RSS feeds. RSS stands for really simple syndication, and these feeds allow news and content creators to not just more easily distribute their content through channels such as social media, email, or content aggregators. It also allows them to expand their reach in ways they never could if they could only post their content on their own pages or channels. So it benefits the reader as well if he has a content aggregator like, say, Flipboard, Feedly, Google News maybe. This way the reader doesn't have to go to each website and click around and waste so much time doing that. He can just instead have all the content delivered from all of those sources straight onto whatever app he uses. Since almost all feeds use the same standard XML format, it actually makes feeds very useful for collecting lots of articles from different sources. You won't get, the thing about RSS feeds is that you won't get every article on the website, since these feeds usually have a limit. But if you need maybe articles from the past few days, RSS feeds are perfect actually for collecting links. So let's go ahead and begin, shall we? Okay, so here we are in our text editor. The first thing we're going to do is set up a virtual environment. This way, all of the dependencies will be kept only in our project and will not affect any other dependencies on our computers. Now, mine is already set up, but I'll go through the steps anyway. So whether you're on Linux, Mac, or Windows, what you want to do is just go ahead and pip install virtual env. And we'll go ahead and run this. And we'll wait for it to finish. And then I'm going to demonstrate how to do this first on Linux and Mac OS. Once this decides to finish. Okay, it looks like it is already. So first thing we're going to do is, again, if you're on Linux or on Mac, you're going to type in virtual env, and then you can give it any name. You can give the virtual environment any name you wish. In this case, it's going to be VNV. Then you hit enter. For my sake, I'm not going to hit enter. So once you're done setting up the virtual environment, you can then begin the virtual environment by typing in source and then venv, or whatever the name of your virtual environment is, venv/bin/activate. And this will activate your virtual environment, as you can see here. Now, if you're on Windows, I believe this is what you would type in. So give me 1 second. If you're on Windows after you pip install, what worked for me before was typing in Python tac m virtual env and then whatever name you wish, again virtual venv. And then after you hit enter and that gets set up, I believe you start it by typing in whatever the name of your virtual environment is, followed by scripts, and then activate. And then you hit enter and the same thing should happen again. So whether or not you're on Linux, Mac, or Windows, I happen to be on Linux. To get out of the virtual environment, all you simply have to do is just type deactivate, and there you go, you're out of it. So I'm going to get back into it actually. Source, what is it? VNV. There we go. So very quickly, why don't we import? Let's see. Yeah, so why don't we quickly import request and beautiful soup, since we're going to use those to begin with. So let's just type in import requests and import, and excuse me, from BS4 import beautiful soup. Don't know why I did that. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get that RSS feed. So very easily, quite simply, we can just type in ABC News Technology RSS feed. And let's see, can we find it here? It doesn't look like it, so I'm gonna click this link. This FeedSpot website's usually a good place to find RSS feeds. And we're gonna scroll down, and as we see, here's the tech feed. So let's open this in a new window. Or a new tab, excuse me. Okay, so here's the RSS feed. So this is what a typical feed should look like. Sometimes the feed will not be so cleanly organized, but we can see that each item tag here, for example, contains an article, contains an article and whatever data it decides to post. So the article link is here under the tag link. We don't need to do that. Thank you. So now that we know the tags that we need to extract the article links from, this will be very easy to scrape. Now, mind you, before we go further, to make sure that what you're doing is legal, if you're going to use a different feed, for example, make sure to check the RSS policy of whatever RSS feed you're going to use, and just make sure to respect the site as well. Don't bombard it with too many requests and such things. Okay, so now that we're ready, let's get back to the code. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a response object. So we're just going to type in response equals requests dot get, and then I'm going to type in feed. I'm going to set the feed to be equal to the RSS URL here. So let's copy that, put that in here. And why don't we, just to make sure, let's just make sure that we are able to access the website. So very quickly, I'm just going to print out the response, or the status code here of the response. And as long as that gets a 200, we should be ready to go. So let's go ahead and just run this very quickly. I guarantee you this will run. Come on, there we go. So now we have our 200 response code, so we can go ahead and continue. So let's now collect the contents of the request. So we are going to type in web page be equal to response dot content, and then we are going to create a beautiful soup object, which we will simply call soup, and set that equal to beautiful soup, and send in web page. And since we're parsing through XML, we might as well just set the features equal to XML. That way it knows exactly what to parse for. Now, as we saw in the XML, which I'm going to return here to the XML and the RSS feed, we need to get every instance of items. So we see item here. I'm afraid to let go of the button. And you have all this data underneath. And here's another item. And another, so on and so forth. Each one of these is a separate article in and by itself. So what we are going to do is we're going to literally find all of the objects that have an item tag. So we're going to set this to items, and this will store all instances. It's going to store everything that is in each item tag into a list. So items we're going to set equal to soup dot find all, and then we're going to put item in. And this will give us a list of everything that is within every item tag. Now let's extract each article URL from this items list. So what we're going to do is create a quick for loop and pull the link out, and then store that link in a list, which we're going to call articles. So let's first create the articles list. We'll set that, we'll make that an empty list, and then we'll do for item in items. Let's create a variable called link and set that equal to item dot find link. And then we want to make sure we get just the text from this. So we're going to type in dot text. And then we are going to insert that link into the articles list, and we just do that simply by typing in articles.append link. Okay, so we can now. So now that we actually, let's first check. Let's first check to make sure that everything's running correctly. So what I'm just going to do is print out the articles list here, and I'm going to run this. And let's give it a second to run. And in a couple seconds, we should see a list like we do. And as we see, we have a link here, link here, link here, link here, link here, which is telling us that we have all the articles from the RSS feed. And now that we have the articles, we are ready to go. So let me clear the screen here. And now I am going to delete this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to install the library. We're going to need to install the Newspaper3k library. So go back into your terminal and type in pip3. Make sure to make it pip3, install Newspaper3k. And we're going to run that. Now I already have this installed, but I'm going to run it anyway. And then once that installs, we can continue. So let's go to the top of our code here, and under the things we're importing, we're going to type in from newspaper import article. So now that we have all of the article links, what we're going to do is loop through each article, and then inside the loop have Newspaper3k extract the data, which will then go through sentiment analysis, and then after the sentiment analysis we'll be able to print out all of the data. And in this case, what we're going to extract will be the link, the title, the sentiment scores, including the polarity and subjectivity scores, and finally a summary. So let's go ahead and type this code out. So what we're going to do is we're going to type for URL in articles, since what we have in the list are URLs. We are going to first create an article object, and we are going to do that by creating a variable article, setting that equal to article, and feed that URL into article. And then let's see here. And then we're going to go through the following steps. We're going to first download, after we've created the article object, we're going to download the data. So we just simply type in article.download. By the way, it doesn't, what's here does not have to be article. It can be whatever you call it. Just make sure that this is the same as this. So first we download it, and then we're going to type in article.parse. No, that's not what we want. Thank you. And then finally, in order for us to extract main keywords or to print out a summary for us, we actually need to do natural language processing on it. So we're going to type in article.nlp. And now we can, let's see if I can move this down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we are going to, now we're going to create, let's see here, now we're going to collect the data that we need. So let's just, we're going to get the title first. And all we need to do to get the title is simply just type in article.title. That's all. Not titles. Let's get the summary. Summary is equal to article.summary. Keywords will be equal to article.keywords. Very simple, this Newspaper3k library, what it can do for us. Let's see, what else do we need here? Yes, text. So to get the full text, all you just type in is text is equal to article.text. Very simple. There's some other kinds of data we can get to, as I mentioned before, like published date, authors. For example, if you wanted to get those, you could type in, say, authors is equal to article.authors. If you wanted to get the top image, just type in image, for example, is equal to article top image. For the sake of brevity, I'm just going to comment these out. That way we don't have to print out absolutely everything. And so why don't we just go ahead and print some of this data out before we go and don't need to do that before we go ahead and do the rest of the analysis. So let's just print something out like this. I'm just going to print out some stars. to kind of act as some sort of border between every article that gets printed out. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put that there as well. And let's go ahead and print the, we're going to print the title first. So let's do an fprint. Title is equal to title. Let's print the, don't know why it keeps doing this. Let's print the URL. I believe I had that small, yes, okay. Then let's print out the keywords, the main keywords of the article. And then finally, let's print out the summary. Do this a little, I'm going to, let's just do it like this. Okay, so now that we have everything, let's go ahead and run this and give it a shot, shall we? Give this a second here. This should print out the data in any second. There we go. Let me see if I can expand this a little bit. So there you have it. It's a very, very, very simple way to extract article data and print it to screen in only a couple lines of code. I mean, if we look at the code, there wasn't too much that we had to do, really. All we had to do was just download the library and type in something as simple as article.title to get the titles. Okay, so okay, good. The data is now finished downloading, and as we see here, we have the title. You have the URL, but I got that from the RSS feed parsing, and you see it has keywords as well. So I guess this is about the Brazilian president maybe having some trouble. So Bolsonaro, I know, is the Brazilian president. Maybe there's some instance of fraud. It tells you, it gives you a very good, even these keywords alone give you a good idea of what the article is going to be about. And as we see here, the opposition, which had hoped to get an overwhelming majority against the president, fell short. The Navy issued a statement saying the convoy had been planned, military parades in the capital. Let's see, today's procession. So you get the idea. So you kind of at least have a decent idea of what the article is about from here. And so if you're interested, all you have to do now is just go ahead and click on the link. Okay, very good. So let's go to the last part of this small project and conduct the sentiment analysis and finish the program. So to do this, we first need to install the TextBlob library. So let's go ahead and do that. So make sure you're in your virtual environment, and what we're going to do is type in pip tac capital U just to make sure the library we're installing is fully updated. Pip U install TextBlob, and we'll let this install. Now, luckily for us, installing TextBlob will also install, oh, okay, no such command, interesting. Well, I think you can just install TextBlob if I remember correctly. I think I just did it like this too, and it worked just fine for me. No problem at all. Nothing to worry about. So as I was saying, luckily for us, installing TextBlob will also, as you might be able to notice here, it will also install the natural language toolkit library as well. So you don't really need to install NLTK, but in case you want to install it, I think it's just simply pip install NLTK. That's all, nothing special. Okay, so I'm just going to clear this. Or not. It's acting a little slow. Okay, there we go. So let's minimize this console a little bit. And the first thing we're going to do at the top of the screen is we're going to import TextBlob. So from TextBlob, import capital T TextBlob. And we're also going to import NLTK. Now, before we go further, we're going to have NLTK download a package for us called Punkt. It's P-U-N-K-T. TextBlob will actually need this Punkt package to do what's called tokenization of the text. In other words, by tokenization, I mean that the text must be broken down into words and sentences in order for TextBlob to do natural language processing and other sorts of analysis on the text. So we can go ahead and download this Punkt package into our code. So all you have to do is just type in nltk.download Punkt, and that's all you have to do. Okay, so now all we have to do is just run the TextBlob analysis. So let's go down here before the print statement, and what we're going to do is create a TextBlob object. So let's set a variable, set that equal to TextBlob, and we're going to create the TextBlob object. So capital T TextBlob text. Since it's this text that we are going to run the NLP analysis on, we're just going to take that text and throw it into TextBlob. And now that the object is created, we can simply pull out the polarity and subjectivity scores, and all we need is two very simple lines of code in order to do so. First, we're going to get the polarity and set that to a variable called polarity, and we can simply get this score by typing in textblob.polarity. That's all, nothing more. And the same will be done for subjectivity. So we'll set subjectivity is equal to textblob.subjectivity. And that's it, folks. Now let's add the score. Now let's add these scores to the print section. And that'll end up being the code for today. I think I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to put this just before the summary, I think. We were supposed to, there we go. So let's put this under the keywords. We're going to print. And I'm just going to do it like this. Polarity. And we'll do the same for subjectivity as well. Okay, so now that we have everything we have, we can simply just go ahead and run. So let's do that. Let's give this a second to load and extract the data. Cannot import name TextBlob from TextBlob. Huh. Interesting, this was working just fine before. Let's look in here quick, see what we have. Okay, so now that we have TextBlob installed, let's go up to the top of our code here and import that along with NLTK. First, let's minimize the screen quickly. And I'm going to clear this. So up at the top here, we are going to type from TextBlob import TextBlob. Make sure to pay attention to the uppercase letters here in order for it to run correctly. There we go. And then we're going to import NLTK. And now before we go further, we're going to have NLTK download a package that's called Punkt, P-U-N-K-T. TextBlob will need this Punkt package to do what's called tokenization of the text. In other words, the text must be broken down into words and sentences in order for TextBlob to do the natural language processing and another analysis on the text. So let's go ahead and download that, and by typing in nltk.download Punkt. So that will take care of that. And now we can just go down to the section before the print statements. And all we have to do is type in a couple lines to do the sentiment analysis for us. It's very, very simple. So the first thing we need to do is, once we have the text of the article, we need to create a TextBlob object. So let's give it a variable TextBlob and set that equal to TextBlob of the text. And then all we need is just one line to get the polarity score and one line to get the subjectivity score. So all we have to do is set a variable called polarity, and we can set that equal to TextBlob.polarity. Very, very simple. And then we just do the same for subjectivity. So just do subjectivity and set that equal to TextBlob.subjectivity. And there you have it, folks. Machine learning in 2 lines. So let's see here. Now all we have to do is just add the scores to the print statements, and that's all. And that's all we have. So let's go ahead and add these print statements. Let's go ahead and print out the polarity and subjectivity, and we'll run the program and finish up. So let's just type in polarity. And then we can do the same for the subjectivity. Don't want to do that again. Okay, there we go. And everything should be ready to go. So let's go ahead and run. There we go. So you see it's downloaded Punkt. And let me expand the console here. Give this a few more seconds to finish running. Couple more seconds. Okay, and there we go. So now we have all of the data that we have. So we see the polarity score, and we see the subjectivity score. So let's see. In general, from my experience, most articles usually have their subjectivity score somewhere between 0.2 to 0.5. So for example, here the subjectivity score is 0.42. You can pretty much say that that's a pretty decent score. The article will be fairly objective. And polarity, as we see, it's very close to 0, so very neutral. It's no one seems to be taking a side here. And we look for the keywords. We get a good idea of what the article is about even just from the keywords. So there's going to be something involving the Brazilian president, the military, and something that's going on between the president, the military, and it'll happen in the capital. And so with the summary, the opposition, which had hoped to get an overwhelming majority against the president, fell short. The Navy issued a statement saying the convoy had been planned. Military parades in the capital usually limited. The summary, obviously not perfect, but it certainly gives you a good idea of what the article is about, and if it kind of piques your interest, you can very easily just go ahead and click on this link up here. So there you have it. You can very easily expand upon this program to maybe add more feeds to your collection. By maybe adding more feeds to your collection, you can also do some text analysis and comparison between the feeds as well if you'd like. Maybe do some graphs, charts. So really, the possibilities are endless for what you can do with all this. And the great thing is that you are able to extract all this data without having to go into the HTML, dig through the code, try to find the tags, and then have to type up a completely new statement in order to extract the data that you need. This is pretty much just all you have to do, even just for one article. So it's very, very simple, very simple. Let's see. So besides that, that's all for this video. I have code for this video on my GitHub, which I have posted. I think I'm just going to type it in for you guys. So the GitHub will be at http. Well, we don't really need that. Just do github.com, and then use my username Boniface8, and articles will send you straight to this code that I will have under simple newspaper3k.py. Okay, that's all, folks, and thanks for watching. Thank you.